Hi, I'm Whitney from Oklahoma City, and I'm a Dartmouth 24. I'm planning to study biology with an ecology concentration and philosophy. And I'm writing an article for the spring 2021 edition of Apologia about how a Christian worldview can provide a foundation for environmental responsibility. So, the reason why I chose to write about this topic was because I've always been interested in nature, especially wildlife conservation, and I'm interested in doing my part to protect the environment and also want to encourage others to do the same. I see environmental stewardship as a way in which I can serve Christ, and so as a Christian, I've always wanted to integrate my interest in nature with my faith. But lately, I've found myself frustrated with the attitude I've encountered among some Christians who argue that because God is in control of the environment, or because He has given us dominion over nature, that we don't have a responsibility to act on issues such as climate change. I find this perspective not only simplistic, but biblically unsound, and an easy way to neglect the responsibility that comes with this earth that God has gifted us. Christians who express these views are unwittingly leaning into a mostly unfair critique of Christianity as a primary source of environmental degradation. This charge against Christianity was most famously made by Lynn White in his essay, The Historical Roots of Our Environmental Crisis. Furthermore, because environmental issues are bound up with environmental science, and because science is viewed as a secular pursuit, there's a perception, especially in predominantly secular spaces like Dartmouth, of a conflict between environmental science and religion. Yet, even in secular spaces, there's still been a surprising amount of difficulty and resistance to making meaningful change to address problems like climate change, in spite of an overwhelming scientific consensus on its existence and the need for action. Climate change remains such a large and seemingly overwhelming problem that it is difficult to motivate individuals to make the lifestyle changes that would be required to protect the environment. There's a great deal of tacit pessimism among secular people with respect to climate change and other environmental issues, which is debilitating to any efforts toward progress. Because of these issues with a purely secular perspective, for my research article, I've been looking at alternative interpretations of the Christian perspective on environmental responsibility. One of the ones I found helpful is Wendell Berry's The Gift of Good Land. In this essay, Berry elaborates upon why the Christian justification of the exploitation of the earth is wrong. He argues that God's omnipotence does not alleviate us of responsibility by default. Throughout the Bible, God continually proves that He does not shield us from the natural consequences of our bad actions, as shown through the nation of Israel. Rather, Berry emphasizes that environmental stewardship is hopeless unless it involves long-term devotion and an ultimate promise of redemption that Christianity can provide. However, this gift of redemption does not free us to continue to exploit, but rather calls us to produce good fruit through intentional good works. In this context, that would mean through sustainable practices. Another issue I've been looking at is the ways that a secular perspective can undermine environmental responsibility. I've been particularly interested in the role guilt can play when there's no corresponding promise of forgiveness or redemption. In The Strange Persistence of Guilt, Wilfred McClay explores guilt as an inevitable condition of the human experience that, without a counterpart of promised forgiveness, inhibits progression. With the power that God gave us over creation comes responsibility, and with this responsibility comes inevitable and constant guilt due to our sinful nature. Thus, environmental stewardship, in order to achieve freedom from guilt, is an impossible goal. The bottom line is that climate change feels like it's too big of a problem for humans to tackle alone, because it is. We need to approach environmental stewardship from a Christian standpoint. On the one hand, the promise of the Christian faith that God will one day make all things whole might seem like an excuse to abdicate responsibility. But in light of the true relationship between grace and good works, we can see that God's care for us should evoke our care for His creation. Furthermore, it should give us hope that our individual and collective action might actually meet with success and lead us out of a cycle of guilt and despair that could otherwise keep us stuck in inaction. So regardless of where my readers of my article are coming from, I hope they come away with a greater appreciation of the relevance of Christianity in our increasingly secular society, and understand that its worldview extends beyond our spiritual or emotional lives into our practical concerns. I hope they might even feel more hopeful about our chances to address the problem of climate change and leave a healthier planet for future generations. Thank you.